welcome to Good Game Pocket Edition, your weekly wrap-up of all things gaming for gamers by gamers. I'm Barjo.
And I'm Hex. This week we took on a whole bunch of games, but the one that haunted us the most was the mysterious alienation of the Swapper.
I am going to land this station on the planet below. Unless you detach the solar panels first, Theseus will be destroyed.
And more on that later in the show, but first let's go for a ride into madness with Deadpool, the merc with the mouth.
I'm crazy.
Deadpool is constantly breaking the fourth wall, talking directly to the player, making fun of the game's level design, or the stupidity of the action.
You cannot fly.
Well, it is good to have dreams.
Dreams, yes. Delusions?
Developer High Moon Studios really went to town with this, and the result is a game that is full of fan service. I think Deadpool is at his best when he's not listening to anyone, especially his on-again, off-again sidekick Cable.
Oh God, here he goes again. He's not here 10 seconds before he starts boring us with his dire warning from the future crap.
Sinister has knocked out the X-Men by broadcasting.
This could explain a critical plot point.
The survival of Earth entirely depends on...
The bulk of Deadpool is super violent combat, which actually gets a bit grindy and samey.
Yeah, I found myself forgiving all the average combat and frustrating level design at times just to get to the next joke, though.
My website got 15 million hits the weekend we announced. 1 million one?
I wouldn't really call this a AAA game, but I did have a great time with it. It's interesting to point out that on console, it's more than twice the price of the PC version, though. And as we reviewed it on console, I gave my score based on that, which is 6.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very long game, but it's highly concentrated, so I gave it 6.5 as well. Over on Spawn Point, it was time to grapple with the 3DS for the return of Donkey Kong. Nintendo has made a habit of sticking to its well-worn formulas, and this is basically a 3D remake of the Wii game that came out back in 2010.
What they have added is a new mode, which makes the game easier. Younger gamers might benefit from this, but otherwise it seems like a bit of a lazy, even pointless addition. Why remove challenge and dilute what made this game so great?
Yeah, I don't get it either. But I do think if you missed this game the first time round, then it's definitely worth getting. Some of the new 3D effects are really nice, and the original mode game is such a great platformer. The level design is just exceptional. It's great that we have it on a portable console now, so I still had to give it 9.
I feel the need to play devil's advocate on this one because it is just typical Nintendo rehash of the same thing again and again. So I gave it 6 out of 10 rubber chickens. Next up, Kingdom Rush Frontiers.
Many tower defense games tend towards that initial setup and then you just sit back and watch it play out. But with Frontiers, I felt like I was always on my toes, constantly responding to things like incoming aerial units or needing to carefully move my hero about. I love the fast pace of this and I couldn't put it down. I gave it 9.
I think it was a bit too difficult. Or maybe it was just the design of some of those boss fights, like the one that carves its own path through a level. Totally cheating. And even though this is a paid app, it has microtransactions for the best hero units. And that really irked me, so I gave it 7.
Okay, finally, let's take a look at the long-awaited follow-up to Company of Heroes. This time, the game focuses on the Eastern Front. It's a snowy, bleak landscape and the staging ground for some epic real-time stoushes. And tanks.
This is very much a continuation of the gameplay mechanics that we knew from the last game. It's not necessarily a bad thing because the last game was great. One new addition though, you can mantle over cover now instead of just going around it.
The new Fog of War system called True Sight works on actual line of sight too, so you can pull off some great flanking tactics or ambushes, and likewise be surprised yourself.
It also makes the multiplayer much more challenging too. Taking this game online is a serious test of your tactical flexibility and ability to cope with stress. I also love that the environment destruction in this sequel has been kicked up a notch too. I gave it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, it's one of those games you just lose hours and hours to without noticing as you strive to improve your tactics and ensure the survival of your little guys from mission to mission. I gave it 8 as well. All right, we should go answer some viewer emails.
Good game!
All right, Hex, what's the question for this week?
Okay, we've got this one from Az, who is inside Kingdom Hearts in Western Australia. When the PS4 comes out, will I be able to get all my past favourite games from the past PlayStation consoles like Kingdom Hearts from PS2, Spyro from PS1, and the Kingdom Hearts game on PS3 by downloading them from the PlayStation Network? I really just want the Kingdom Hearts games. Thanks, and may the Force guide you. Well, as the answer is kind of. So you won't be able to download games as such, but Sony has confirmed plans to launch a service that will let you stream old PlayStation games over the internet. The details are still pretty thin about how it's all going to work.
Yes, but we know that it won't be available at launch and that they plan to start offering the service to the United States sometime next year and then roll it out to the rest of the world sometime after that. From what we've heard, it will start by offering a limited selection of PS3 games and hope that games from older consoles will eventually be available too.
It might take a little while for Australians to get it though, since streaming games requires a fair bit of infrastructure to work. Basically, they need to build server farms around the country so that they can run games fairly close to where you live. Because for the whole system to work, it needs to send your controller input from your house to the server running the game and then stream the footage of the game back to you quick enough for it to feel like you're playing the game locally.
Yeah, and if a game takes more than about 200 milliseconds or a fifth of a second to respond, then it feels really off-putting. Ideally, you want a response time of less than 80 milliseconds, so there's no way it's going to work if you're trying to play on a US server, since the speed of light and data transfers just won't be fast enough.
Fair enough.
We're looking forward to hearing some more info about exactly how it's going to work, but until then, it's your review time.
Well, I think our choice has to be The Last of Us. We had a huge response for this one, over 300 reviews.
It's a lot.
And were there any negative ones, Hex?
There was a bad one. It was from Guest, who said it was bad and gave it half a star.
Well, quite the analysis there, Mr. Guest. And let me have a look here. I found another one, and it's from Pat Rick 2000, who writes one word, some sort of expletive. I think he probably means 1.5 stars.
Oh, okay, this one's massive. I think we'll have to cut it down a little bit, but I can give you the basic gist. It's from Old School Gamer 6942, who writes, I was always led to believe you weren't influenced by money and companies. This review proves otherwise. The puzzles, overuse of pallets and ladders, and it's ridiculous. I mean, for F's sake, one scene, there's debris less than a foot high, but let's go through that dark, seedy house instead. And then there's the you can't jump issue. I will never watch your show again. Either graphics, OMFG gamers, or sellouts. Either way, not supporting this BS review and show. It's more a movie than an immersed game. If you're a graphics moron or a sellout, this game's for you. And he scored at 0, so that's pretty harsh.
No hard feelings, right?
None at all.
I think he knows what he likes and he's passionate about it, so that's okay. I think it's fair to say that out of the 300 plus reviews though, a good 90% of you gave it a solid 10 out of 10. Nickelodeon here, for example, liked it so much, he forgot the English language momentarily, writing 10 out of 10.
I think it had a similar effect on Something here, who wrote and gave it 10 out of 10. Well, I think we can all agree on that.
Indeed. While that does seem to be the general consensus, on that note, we should go back to the studio, Hex.
Yes, we should.
Good game.
Hex, I love it when a game takes familiar mechanics and then combines them together to make something feel completely unfamiliar, and the Swapper does this beautifully.
You've seen what's left of the ship. I suppose you had to see for yourself. It took years of study to accept that they were alive. Not like we are, of course.
You find yourself on an abandoned research station called the Theseus in deep space. Scattered throughout the ship, you find strange rock formations which have the ability to communicate with you.
This place changes people.
Over time, you start to learn about what happened to the crew by these cryptic messages and from another astronaut on the ship.
Why are you following me?
It's got a bit of an Event Horizon vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I love talking rocks and alien possession set in space. Just love it. You quickly find a swapping device. It allows you to make clones of yourself and then swap your soul into them. The clones all mimic your every move, but you can only move between them if you have a direct line of sight, which the game loves to break for you. On top of that, you have a limited number of clones you can make at any time. At first, Hex, I wondered, where can they go with this pretty simple mechanic? But then the game just throws unexpected complexity at you at every turn.
Yeah, I mean, there are some mind-bending puzzles here that you feel encouraged to solve, but you also never feel overly frustrated or like it's throwing brick walls at you at every turn, and that's a tricky thing to accomplish in a genre like this. There's a perfect balance of difficulty here, and it never wastes your time. There's teleporters scattered about which let you zip from one area to the next, but you still get lost in the cold loneliness that they've created. Part of the beauty of these levels comes from a really thoughtful use of light, but also they were all made from real clay models, so it has a real constructed feel to it.
And it's so eerie, isn't it? Especially when you go for a spacewalk.
It's likely the Watchers aren't even aware they killed the crew, just as you're unaware when your immune system kills a virus.
As you progress, you're introduced to the usual puzzle mechanics we've seen before, such as blocks and pressure pads, all with that extra layer of complexity, though, that you use clones to activate and move them around. But also, different types of light beams will disrupt your swapping abilities. Some won't let you place clones, some won't let you swap between them, so it becomes about finding the right angles and the right moment to swap. The trickiest sections really force you to think about timing, but also you start to look for walls that you can walk up against that keep your clones moving. I found this kind of forward planning really fun to think about.
Yeah, and there are a few areas which require some quick fingers, but the mechanics are refined and forgiving when they need to be. Those reverse gravity platforms what really threw my brain out the most though, Barjo, at trying to work out the timing and placing and switching. You get the impression playing this that all of these puzzles have been play tested a lot, so you never feel like the mechanics are letting you down, it's just your brain.
Yeah, and I think that's why this never gets frustrating, because like you said, it's got really tight, solid mechanics that have been refined, so you just have to wait till the solution slowly forms in front of you. It's a wonderful little puzzler made by just 2 university students. I gave it 8.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It was an 8 from me.
Good game.
And with that, our pockets have been emptied for another week, but don't forget you can catch a full half hour of Good Game on Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. This week we're taking a look at the Dungeons & Dragons-based MMO Neverwinter.
We'll also have a look at a brand new console, the Ouya!
Along with its first exclusive title, Towerfall. Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out. I see you wearing a cowboy scarf today.
It's not a cowboy scarf. It's called
becoming a cowgirl?
It's called an infinity scarf.
Why is it called an infinity scarf?
Because it's a circle. It's just a one continuous circle. It just goes on forever.
You look like a cowgirl. It's good. I like cowgirls.